Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Rutt Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 1971 movie The French Connection. The French Connection is a police crime drama that lasts an hour and 44 minutes long, and it's directed by William Friedkin, produced by Philip D'Antoni. The script was written by Ernest Heidemann, based on a novel by Robin Moore titled The French Connection, and it stars Gene Hackman, who won a Best Actor Oscar for his performance, Fernando Rey, Roy Scheider, Tony LeBianco, Arlene Farber, Marcel Bozzuffi, and Frédéric de Pasquale are also the stars in this movie. Okay, the plot opens up with it's set in Marseille, France, where an undercover cop is tracking down an owner of the largest heroin smuggling operation in the world, and the owner is of course Alain Charnier, played by Fernando Rey. This results in him getting killed by Mr. Charnier's main assassin, Pierre Nicoli, played by Marcel Bozzuffi. Charnier's mission is to cough up $32 million from the United States by stuffing it in a secret hiding place in a car owned by iconic TV celebrity André Davreau, played by Frédéric de Pasquale. The next scenes we go to the mean streets of Bedford-Stuyvesant, located in Brooklyn, New York, where costume detectives Jimmy Popeye Doyle, played by Gene Hackman, who is disguised as Santa Claus, and his partner, Buddy Cloudy Russo, played by Roy Scheider, who is dressed up as a hot dog vendor, track down a drug dealing taking place in a bar. Cloudy arrests a prime suspect, but leads them on a foot chase, which leads to the cops capturing him and interrogates him, who reveals who he's connected with. At a nearby place called the Copacabana, Popeye and Cloudy witness at Sal and Angie's restaurant, where Sal and his wife Angie, played by Tony LoBianco and Arlene Farber, bring in mob members to their store who are armed with narcotics. They reveal that Sal and Angie have criminal pasts and are determined to track them down, feeling they're behind the crooked operation, along with their Jewish lawyer Joel Weinstock, played by Harold Gary. Jimmy and Cloudy assign supervisor Walt Simonson, played by Eddie Egan, to wiretrap the Boca's phones for gathering more dirt on the Boca's crooked operation. Popeye and Cloudy join forces with a familiar face named Muldering, played by Bill Hickman, who doesn't seem to like Popeye very much. And who wouldn't? I mean Popeye Doyle does not come across as a cookie-cutter, lovable cop. I mean, he's very aggressive, he's very cunning and ruthless, and to add to that, he's also quite curmudgeon and bigoted, and maybe those are just his positive sides. Aside from that, he's also known for doing underhanded things like sleeping with prostitutes. There was of course a memorable scene where he was handcuffed to the bed by a prostitute. He's also a bit of an alcoholic, and sometimes I even think of him as a bit of like the cliched, drunken Irish American cop with a chip on his shoulder. But anyhow, once Devereaux's car comes into the country, Weinstock's chemist reveals that it's one of the purest drugs that measures up to 60 kilos, and this And these drugs could be worth as much as $32 million in US. On a $500,000 investment, Boca wants the deal right away, but Weinstock knows Boca's phone has been rigged and demands Sal to be more patient. Even though Charnier is planning to take the money and to head back to France as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Nicoli tries to take down Doyle, but his plan backfires, which leads to an exciting train car chase with Doyle in a car and Nicoli on a train, where he hijacks and kills the engineer, which the train stops at the terminus. Nicoli escapes through a glass window. When he tries to make a run from it, Popeye kills him dead. Popeye orders that the car be taken to a car shop and demands to have it torn apart to find where the stash is bit by bit. Eventually the drugs are stashed in green and blue baggies, and they're hiding in the rocker panels. Once found, they restore the car as Devereaux drives back to Charnier. The drugs were found in the rocker panels, and the chemist approves the drug's purity. Charnier hides the money in the rocker panels. Just when Charnier thought he outsmarted the cops, Charnier along with Sal drive off with the money, only to be barricaded by Popeye and the entire NYPD, and a chase begins, which leads them to a factory where Sal gets killed. Charnier escapes from the cops and foot chases them to a warehouse, and Popeye follows him. Popeye sees a shadow-like person and shoots him, but it turns out that it wasn't Charnier, it was Mulderring. Popeye Doyle determines that he will find Charnier, and he is determined that he is going to get him. It ends, however, as Charnier escapes and has returned to France, which inevitably leads up to a potential sequel, which came out back in 1975. What did I personally think of this movie? Well, if you're looking for an intelligent, fast-paced crime drama with thrilling chases, knock 'em, sock 'em, in-your-face action, and a believable story to go along, then The French Connection is the film for you. Though it seems uneven to categorize what the genre of this movie is, The French Connection does not rely on one genre. It's a variety of different genres juxtaposed into one great film. I mean, it's got multi-dimensions to it. It's got quick-paced, exciting action. It's actually based on true events, and the characters are actually based on real people. Popeye Doyle, Cloudy Rousseau are actually loosely based on real-life police detectives who have really tracked down a drug cartel coming in from France, and it's up to these cops to put a stop to them. For fans who are worried that this film may contain a fantasy save the world from evil cliché with a cookie-cutter comic book hero, well, you can throw those worries away, because Popeye Doyle and Cloudy Rousseau are not the typical save the world from evil guys. Like I told you before, they're a pretty raunchy bunch. You know, I mean, there's no doubt about it that Popeye Doyle is a hard-nosed, crime-fighting detective who thinks that the entire streets of Brooklyn is filled with guilty people. I mean, this guy will interrogate his mother if he has to. And he uses his force and his aggression in a very, very tight, very ruthless ways of getting his victims. I mean, you should see some of the memorable scenes, like when he was in the bar, and he was in a bar that was like filled with predominantly African Americans. I mean, he's not afraid to use the N-word. He's not afraid to use any kind of racial prejudices towards these guys just to get answers to a question. Even some of his one-liners and quips may seem a little humorous, but I kind of find them at times a bit disturbing. And of course, he always sometimes asks this weird question like, do you pick your feet in Poughkeepsie? I love it when he starts taking a cup and mixings, and he starts putting coke in it, and cocaine and cigarette ashes, and says, hey, you guys care for a milkshake? You know, I mean, this guy is a hard-nailed, don't mess around with, doesn't take shit from anybody type of cop. Cliche? A little bit, you know, being the fact that he is a racist Irish American. Cloudy Russo is not exactly what you call good cop, bad cop either. I would say more in terms of bad cop, badder cop. Cloudy Russo, he too can also be kind of ruthless in his tactics. Maybe he's a little more laid back than Popeye Doyle, but you know, when the going gets tough, he can also put on some toughness as well. But I guarantee you won't be disappointed by the outcome of how the movie unfolds. It gives a realistic, grim view of the angst and the frustrations of the criminal justice industry, and a story of two criminal detectives protecting the streets of New York City from French drug smugglers who are hiding heroin in a Lincoln Continental and who also have ties with the mafia. I know this may seem odd what I'm about to say next, but to watch this film, yes, it does require full attention. Because if 1 second is turned away, you will miss out on a lot, and you will be lost trying to figure out the plot. So if you must, fuel up on coffee, if you have to, because there is no spoon feeding in the course of watching this movie, because the action and the thriller makes you think. And the acting was such a thrill to watch, as Gene Hackman and Roy Scheider, well, they were just brilliant together as Detective Doyle and Detective Russo respectively. As hard-assed as they come, these two won't take crap from anyone to track down this international conspiracy between the French smugglers and the underworld, even if their job becomes an obsession where every bystander is on the street guilty until proven innocent. But it's Hackman's Doyle who's hard on this case, complete with a don't trust anyone frame of mind. He is sure to bring the crime down, even if it means taking a few others down with him. It's the film that has really truly made Gene Hackman a star, as he went on to win the Academy Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role. But Hackman is also supported by a strong cast, and the cinematography was done very professionally by Owen Roizman, especially the car chase. I mean, this is like one of the most exciting car chases that you'll ever see, even compared to like Lethal Weapon or Die Hard movie. The car chase is like probably one of the most well choreographed car chase scenes ever, and this movie really was ahead of its time. I mean, save your popcorn and soda, till after the movie, because you won't want to miss out on a single piece of the action that's delivered here. Although this movie does have strong violence, it's tamed compared to a Quentin Tarantino film anytime. And instead of relying on strong special effects, it depends on the performances by the actors and the amazing direction from William Friedkin. and there's also some really great, vibrant, scintillating camera work. In addition to that, unlike other mindless action garbage, this movie has heroes that you can relate to. You could probably relate to a guy like Popeye Doyle or Cloudy Russo. They are actually based on real-life cops who have been out on the streets taking down any potential druggies. Even if they're not necessarily likable and maybe they're not exactly that easy to understand, all I know is that if you are interested to see a real crime drama with amazing characters, a grim but gripping scenery, and flawless direction, this is one you don't want to miss. I guarantee you. This is what movie does require a lot of special attention, and of course it exceeds the sequel at any time. So I highly recommend it, and if I was to give it a score out of 10, it's gotta be a 9.5. Well, I hope this wraps up my writer review for this week. See you next time, and please feel free to write back to me. I really love feedback. Remember, be kind, be courteous, and take care of yourselves, and see you real soon. Goodbye, everyone.